Hello guys, welcome to the studio. Today in our FX series, we're going to be taking a look at the air nonlinear reverb. Let's quickly launch that right about now and then we'll talk about it. Nonlinear reverb, that is it right there. This guy. Now, what does the air nonlinear reverb does? It basically creates a synthetic, otherworldly, reverb effect that goes beyond traditional room simulations. Normally for a reverb to take place, you are supposed to be in a place that your sound can bounce around. So let's say like a hall, you have the sound coming out from a speaker, you are in the middle of the room, the sound will get to you first, you will hear that, then the remaining part of the sound that goes to hit the wall away from you, and the sound comes back to you. You will still hear that as well. That is basically what we call a reverb, and it differs based on the size of the room and probably the treatment, the wall treatment of those rooms. The normal linear reverb is the type that basically dies down normally, gradually, because at any point in time, when the sound comes through the speaker, it will reverb all around and then the echo and everything eventually goes out. So that's a normal linear reverb. But the non-linear is the one that now you can gate it, which means you have the means of being able to simulate the room size or the length, the time, the duration per se of that particular reverb. That is basically what the non-linear reverb means in essence. So that's why you have the gated, which is what we're doing right now, and you can also choose to reverse it. What I will be doing right now quickly is to just talk about this interface, what each of these means, and then how they will affect your sound. We're talking about the pre-delay. It basically introduces a short delay between the original sound and the onset of the reverb. You will see that in action when we get to demonstration. Then let's talk about the dry delay. You can use this parameter to specify when you also want the original signal to come in. It basically means the dry delay can help you to position when you actually hear the original signal. It can be before the wet signal or it can be after the wet signal. That's just what the dry delay can help you to achieve. We will also get to that. Then we're talking about time. This is actually the decay time. Decay time talks about how long do you want the entire reverb to last. That is how you get to simulate the room that you're currently working with here, and you already know what the mix is all about. If you don't, there's still a link here that you can use to catch up on the previous plugins, and then they will really help you like a lot. Now let's come over to the reverb. We're talking about the diffusion, which you're already used to, you already know by now as well. It basically helps to blur out all the effects. Just consider it as a blur feature to help you to smoothing out all these effects, compared to when you can actually hear the reverb lines. This diffusion will help you to blur everything out and it will be smoother. And of course you have your EQ, your low cut and your high cut. Basically you're trying to cut off some low or add more low, and you're trying to cut off some high frequency. Basically this is what the equalizer does. So let's talk about the shape. Gated. Your normal reverb, like I said earlier, will definitely go from a high decibel, reverberate, and then fade out. But for gated, you are the one that is trying to say abruptly stop it at a particular point. Please shut it off at a particular point based on these parameters that I've set. And that's basically what you're trying to do here, gated. But the reverse, basically, you're also saying based on this parameter, instead of going from the high decibel to the low decibel and fade out, or probably get cut off, it will reverse that particular effect, and then the sound scope will move from the low decibel to the high decibel and then cut off. All these things you will hear in our demo. Let's dive right in. Let me try like I always do. I like to put everything into 0 so that you can actually feel the effects. No, let's leave this as it is. Pre-delay. This is the actual sound. So let me bring it up to 100% mix. That is now the reverb that you're hearing. pre-delay. I'll bring this down to say 70 so you can hear the 2. Right, let me try 50. So you can hear the 2 equally. Now, let me take this up a little bit further. Let me take it to the highest so you can get to hear the difference. You can see, you hear the original signal first, then the reverb after like 250 milliseconds. Now see what happens when I apply the dry delay. If I also put it on 250 milliseconds, around that, you see now they've met with each other. If I take this anything further than this, it means the pre-delay, that is the wet signal, I will hear it first before I hear the dry signal. Did you hear that? There are places and instances where this is very, very useful. Do you get this like a different vibe on itself? When you first of all hear the reverb before you actually hear the sound, that's what this does for you. And this time was, like I said earlier, to help you to, say, okay, I don't want it to just fizzle out, this short period of time, extend it. So let's get to feel that. Let me take this back down. I'll prefer the initial dry to come before the wet. Now, let me increase this. Did you hear that? Let me make it 1 whole second. That reverb actually occurs in a whole second. Now you can hear all those sounds, those that looks like a choppy, do I say snare sound? That is actually the reverb lines you are hearing, as if it's bouncing off things. To make sure you don't want to hear that, if you don't want to hear it that manner, that is where the diffuser comes in. Awesome. Now let's diffuse it to 100. Do you see that it's smoothing it out reasonably enough for you not to hear it sharply like you were hearing it before? So anytime you are trying to apply maybe like a time expansion and you realize that it's messing up with the smoothness you are trying to look for, you can actually use your diffusion to basically apply that smoothness to the edges, and your width still does the same thing it does. The scope, either you want it to be broad or just smarten it out. Low cut, high cut, you already know what it does, but then let's apply that. Cutting off all the lows. Let's leave it in the middle, and high cuts. Cutting off all the highs. See. So basically that way. So let's leave it that way. Now let's talk about this gated and the reverse. Right now, if I put it to reverse, it comes from that silent part and then it goes up to the very loud part. So basically reverses the reverb effect. Let's take it back here, reduce this time. So sometimes if you just want to apply this to maybe just your pad alone, you can set this up in a different return and can send your pad to it. Also, it's also advisable if you want to basically just apply to the pad directly. If you know that you're not going to be using it in a lot of other places, fine, it can also do that. But then, because what I've done right now, I applied it to the entire program. So that's why it's applicable to or any other thing I tab here. And there you have it. That is basically all as far as your air non-linear reverb is concerned. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and then drop your thoughts in the comment section below. We'll see you in the next one.